The emergency session of the Coalition Council convened within hours of Captain Veltar's initial report from Earth. Representatives from 12 species gathered in their atmospheric pods, the chamber filled with an unprecedented tension as they processed the impossible news that humanity was not only alive, but had been secretly observing the Coalition for decades. War Chief Thokmar of the Draknari Empire was the first to speak, his massive form bristling with barely contained aggression. This deception cannot be tolerated. The humans have been spying on Coalition operations for 60 years, gathering intelligence on our military capabilities and technological advances. They represent a clear security threat. Council Leader Velmoth of the Centaurian Republic raised a tentacle for attention. War Chief, let us not jump to conclusions. Captain Veltar's report indicates the humans were observing, not infiltrating. They remained hidden in their own solar system and made no aggressive moves against Coalition assets. They built secret space installations while pretending to be extinct, Thokmar growled. They studied our weaknesses and prepared countermeasures against our technology. This is the behavior of a species planning for war. From her crystalline pod, the Etherian representative Lyreth spoke in her musical voice. Or it is the behavior of a species that feared being conquered or controlled. Their caution may have been justified, given some members' attitudes toward newly discovered civilizations. The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed the data that Captain Veltar had transmitted. Images of vast underground cities, hidden space installations, and evidence of technological advancement that rivaled many Coalition species. Most disturbing to some members was the revelation that humanity had cracked Coalition encryption and communication protocols decades ago. Commander Zethkar, who had originally declared humanity extinct, stood to address the council. The question before us is not whether the humans deceived us, but what we do about it now. They have revealed themselves voluntarily, which suggests they are ready to negotiate rather than remain hidden, or they revealed themselves because they were discovered and had no choice, countered the representative from the Keth hegemony. Their hand was forced by Captain Veltar's deep scanning techniques. The debate continued for hours, with opinion sharply divided. The peaceful species saw humanity's survival and unification as an inspiring achievement, while the more militaristic members viewed their deception and hidden capabilities as a potential threat that needed to be contained. Meanwhile, in the underground command center of New Denver, General Rodriguez was coordinating humanity's response to what they knew would be a galaxy-changing revelation. Intelligence reports indicated massive Coalition fleet movements as news of humanity's survival spread through their communication networks. Sir, we're detecting at least 40 Coalition vessels moving toward our system, reported Major Tony Martinez from the tactical station. Multiple species, including what appears to be a Draknari battle fleet. Time to arrival? Rodriguez asked. The fastest ships will reach us in approximately 10 days. Dr. Ben Clark looked up from his communication monitoring station. General, I'm intercepting Coalition emergency communications. The council is in session, and the debate is intense. Some species want to welcome us, others want to impose some kind of control or quarantine. Rodriguez walked to the main display showing the tactical situation around Earth. Hidden defensive platforms and monitoring stations provided complete coverage of the solar system, while the underground cities could survive virtually any attack. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades. Amy, what's your assessment of Captain Veltar? Rodriguez asked Colonel Foster, who had returned from the surface meeting hours earlier. He's genuinely scientific-minded and appears to support peaceful contact, Amy replied. Dr. Crixina seems fascinated by our achievements rather than threatened by them. However, they're both concerned about how other Coalition species will react. And they should be, Dr. Carter added from her position at the xenobiology station. Our analysis indicates that at least 3 Coalition species have histories of forcibly annexing newly discovered civilizations. Rodriguez made a decision that would echo through history. Open a channel to the Coalition Council. It's time we spoke directly to the entire galaxy. The transmission that reached the Coalition Council chamber was unprecedented. Instead of communicating through intermediaries or waiting for official contact protocols, the humans had broadcast directly to the governing body of galactic civilization. Honorable members of the Coalition Council, came the voice in perfect universal Coalition standard. This is President Elena Santos of the United Earth Government. We address you not as supplicants seeking membership, but as representatives of a sovereign civilization announcing our presence in the galaxy. The council chamber fell silent as the human leader continued. For 53 years, humanity has observed the coalition from afar. We have studied your languages, learned your customs, and watched your interactions with newly discovered species. We have seen both your achievements and your failures. War Chief Thokmar roared in outrage. How dare they judge us? They are nothing but primitives who hid in caves like frightened animals. Those caves house 8 billion humans in cities more advanced than most coalition worlds, President Santos replied, somehow hearing his comment despite the transmission being one way. We did not hide from fear, War Chief Thokmar. We hid to give ourselves time to become worthy of standing among you as equals. The fact that the human president had identified Thokmar and responded to his specific comment sent a chill through the chamber. It meant they were not only broadcasting to the council, but monitoring the proceedings in real time with translation capabilities that surpassed coalition technology. You claim to be equals, called out the Keth representative, but you have no interstellar capabilities. No colonies beyond your own system. You are incorrect, Santos replied calmly. Admiral Jake Morrison, please show our council friends what humanity has been building. The display in the coalition chamber suddenly showed a view of space around Earth. But this was not the empty system that coalition surveys had documented. Dozens of ships emerged from behind planetary bodies and artificial camouflage, their designs sleek and obviously advanced. Space stations uncloaked themselves, revealing massive installations that had been hidden from coalition sensors for decades. This is Admiral Morrison of the First Earth Fleet, came another human voice. We have 47 operational vessels, 12 space stations and research installations throughout the Sol system. We have been operating in space continuously since before our supposed extinction. The coalition representatives stared in shock at the display. The humans had not only survived underground, they had built a space fleet that had remained completely undetected by the galaxy's most advanced sensor technology. President Santos continued her address. We reveal ourselves now because we are ready to take our place in the galactic community. However, we will do so as equals, not as a protectorate species. We have proven our technological capabilities, our social unity, and our ability to defend ourselves. And if the coalition refuses to accept you as equals? Asked Council Leader Velmoth, genuinely curious about the human response. Then we will remain independent until the galaxy evolves enough to recognize our sovereignty, Santos replied, without hesitation. We have survived in isolation for 50 years. We can continue to do so if necessary. War Chief Thokmar stood in his pod, his massive frame radiating menace. The Draknari Empire does not negotiate with spies and deceivers. If you will not submit to proper oversight, you will be compelled to do so. The response came not from President Santos but from Admiral Morrison. War Chief, our analysis indicates your fleet consists of 19 vessels currently moving toward our system. We have been tracking them since they left Draknari space. If you choose to test our defenses, you may find the experience educational. Are you threatening the Draknari Empire? Thokmar roared. I am informing you that Earth is well defended and that any hostile action will be met with appropriate response, Morrison replied calmly. We prefer peace, but we are prepared for war. The chamber erupted in heated debate as the implications sank in. Humanity had not only revealed themselves as a technological equal to coalition species, but had effectively announced their military capabilities and willingness to defend their independence. Council Leader Velmoth called for order. President Santos, what exactly are you proposing? We propose that humanity be granted full coalition membership with all the rights and responsibilities that entails, Santos replied. We will contribute to galactic science, trade, and mutual defense. We will respect the sovereignty of other coalition worlds and expect the same respect in return. And if some coalition members refuse to accept your terms, asked the Etherian representative, then those members will find that the galaxy has changed, Santos said firmly. Humanity is no longer hidden. We are here, we are strong, and we will be respected. The choice is whether that respect comes through friendship or through demonstration of our capabilities. The vote that followed would reshape galactic politics for generations. The shuttle from the Harmonious Dawn descended through Earth's atmosphere toward the coordinates provided by the humans. Captain Veltar watched through the viewports as they passed through clouds that still carried traces of dust from the ancient asteroid impact. The surface below looked barren and lifeless, exactly as Coalition surveys had reported for 50 years. "Captain, I'm detecting an artificial structure ahead," reported the shuttle pilot. "It appears to be rising from the ground." Veltar leaned forward to get a better view. What had been empty wasteland moments before now showed a gleaming metal platform emerging from beneath the earth. As they watched, walls and a domed roof assembled themselves with mechanical precision, creating a sophisticated meeting facility in less than 10 minutes. "Impressive engineering," Dr. Krixna observed from her seat. "They built that entire structure from underground components." The shuttle landed on the platform with a soft thud. Through the viewports, they could see a group of humans waiting for them near an airlock entrance. Veltar had studied human physiology from Coalition records, but seeing them in person was different. They appeared smaller than he had expected, but they moved with confidence and purpose. "Environmental readings show the atmosphere is safe for both our species," the pilot reported. "The humans have adjusted the facility's internal environment to accommodate our respiratory needs." Veltar stood and straightened his uniform. "Dr. Krixna, remember that we are representing the entire Coalition in this meeting. Let's try to learn as much as we can about what these humans have been doing for the past 50 years. The airlock cycled open, and Veltar got his first close look at the humans. The woman who had spoken with him over the radio stepped forward. She was tall for a human, with short brown hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to take in every detail of his appearance. "Captain Veltar, I am Colonel Amy Foster. Welcome to Earth." Veltar attempted the human gesture of extending his hand, though his tentacles made it awkward. "Colonel Foster, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. This is Dr. Krixna, our science officer." Amy shook hands with both aliens, then gestured toward the facility entrance. "Please come inside. We have prepared a presentation that should answer many of your questions about our survival and current status." As they walked through the corridors of the facility, Veltar noted the advanced technology integrated into every surface. The walls displayed information in multiple languages, including perfect Centaurian script. The lighting adjusted automatically to provide optimal visibility for both human and alien eyes. "Colonel Foster," Dr. Krixna said, "this facility was constructed very quickly. Do you have similar installations across your planet?" "We have emergency surface facilities at key locations around the globe," Amy replied diplomatically. "Our primary civilization exists in a different environment, which we will show you shortly." They entered a large conference room where several other humans were waiting. Amy introduced them as Director Kate Walsh, Dr. Ben Clark, and Dr. Lisa Carter. Each human greeted the aliens with professional courtesy, but Veltar could sense they were being carefully evaluated. "Before we begin," Amy said, "Dr. Clark would like to demonstrate something that might interest you." Ben stepped forward with a portable device. "Captain Veltar, for the past 60 years, we have been monitoring Coalition communications. We have developed translation protocols for 17 different Coalition languages and learned much about your various cultures." He activated the device, and Veltar heard his own voice speaking perfect Draknari, then Etherian, then several other Coalition languages. "We understand that this revelation might be concerning to you, but we want to assure you that we use this information purely for educational purposes." Veltar felt a mixture of admiration and unease. The humans had been secretly studying the Coalition for decades, learning their languages and customs while remaining completely hidden. "This is remarkable technology, Dr. Clark. Your translation accuracy is better than our own universal communicators. We have had considerable time to perfect it," Ben replied with a slight smile. Director Walsh activated a large holographic display that filled the center of the room. "Captain Dr. Krixna, what you are about to see represents the greatest construction project in human history." The hologram showed a cross-section view of Earth, but instead of solid rock beneath the surface, there were vast chambers and connecting tunnels. Cities the size of major metropolitan areas existed miles underground, connected by transportation networks that spanned continents. "This is New Denver, where we are currently located," Walsh explained, highlighting one of the underground cities. "It houses 8 million people and serves as our primary administrative center." Dr. Krixna stared at the display in amazement. "How many of these cities exist?" "We have 47 major population centers and hundreds of smaller facilities," Walsh replied. "Our total underground population is approximately 8 billion individuals. Feltar felt his assumptions about humanity crumbling. 8 billion? That's larger than the pre-impact population estimates in our records. Captain, Dr. Carter interjected, we didn't lose population during the asteroid crisis. We used it as an opportunity to unite our species and build something better than what existed on the surface. Amy Foster manipulated the holographic display to show different aspects of the underground civilization. We have completely sustainable food production, unlimited geothermal energy, and manufacturing capabilities that surpass anything we had on the surface. But why remain hidden? Veltar asked. Why not reveal yourselves to the galaxy decades ago? We needed time to become what we wanted to be, Amy replied. On the surface, humanity was divided into competing nations, fighting over resources and territory. Underground, we became a truly unified species. We used our time in hiding to solve the problems that had plagued us for millennia. Dr. Clark added, we also needed time to understand the galaxy we would be joining. Through our monitoring of coalition communications, we learned about the various species, their politics, their conflicts, and their capabilities. We wanted to be prepared. Prepared for what? Dr. Crixna asked. To emerge as equals rather than primitives, Amy said firmly. We observed how the coalition treats newly discovered species. Often they are placed under protectorate status, their development guided and controlled by more advanced civilizations. We decided that would not be acceptable for humanity. Veltar was beginning to understand the magnitude of what the humans had accomplished. They had not simply survived their apparent extinction. They had used the crisis to transform their entire civilization while secretly preparing for eventual contact with the galaxy. Colonel Foster, he said carefully, when your people monitored our communications, what did you learn about coalition intentions toward newly discovered species? Amy exchanged glances with her colleagues before answering. We learned that the coalition is generally peaceful, but tends to be paternalistic toward less advanced species. We also learned that some coalition members, particularly the Draknari Empire, view new species as potential threats to be contained or assets to be controlled. And you wanted to avoid that fate, Veltar concluded. Exactly. We wanted to reveal ourselves when we were strong enough to demand respect rather than protection. Dr. Walsh activated another section of the holographic display. Captain, what we're about to show you is classified at the highest levels. But we believe you need to understand the full scope of our capabilities. The display now showed space around Earth. But instead of empty orbits, there were dozens of structures that coalition sensors had never detected. Space stations, manufacturing facilities, and what appeared to be defensive platforms. We did not abandon space when we went underground, Walsh explained. We simply became more careful about how we operated there. We have research facilities on your moon and Mars, launched from hidden surface installations that your sensors cannot detect. Veltar stared at the display, realizing that every coalition survey of the Sol system had missed evidence of an extensive human space presence. How is it possible that we never detected any of this? We studied your sensor technology through intercepted technical communications, Dr. Carter replied. We designed our installations specifically to avoid detection by coalition scanning methods. The implications were staggering. Humanity had spent 50 years building a secret space-based civilization while letting the galaxy believe they were extinct. They had studied coalition technology and developed countermeasures. They had emerged not as a primitive species to be guided, but as a technological equal that had been watching the galaxy from the shadows. Colonel Foster, Veltar said slowly, I need to ask directly. What are your people's intentions toward the coalition? Amy looked him straight in the eyes. Captain, humanity wants to join the galactic community as an equal member. We have no territorial ambitions beyond our own solar system, and we have no desire for conflict with any coalition species. However, we will not accept being treated as a protectorate or a primitive civilization to be managed by others. And if the coalition refuses to accept you as equals, Amy's expression hardened slightly, then we will remain independent until the galaxy is ready to treat us with the respect we have earned. The transmission that came from Earth's surface was clear and impossible to ignore. In perfect Centaurian, a voice spoke words that would change the galaxy forever. Greetings. Vessel Harmonious Dawn. This is Colonel Amy Foster of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome you to our solar system and request that you state your intentions. Captain Veltar stood frozen on his bridge, staring at the communication panel as if it might suddenly reveal this was all an elaborate joke. Around him, his crew members looked equally stunned. Dr. Krixna was the first to break the silence. "Captain, the transmission is definitely coming from the planet's surface. Grid coordinates indicate a location in what their maps called North America. How is this possible?" Veltar asked, though he already knew the answer was obvious. Humanity had never gone extinct. They had simply hidden themselves so well that 50 years of coalition monitoring had failed to detect them. Communications Officer Lixara spoke up hesitantly. "Sir, should I respond to their transmission?" Veltar realized he was in completely uncharted territory. First contact protocols assumed they would be discovering a primitive civilization, not being discovered by one that had been watching them. "Put me through to their frequency." "Channel open, sir." Veltar cleared his throat, trying to gather his thoughts. "This is Captain Veltar of the Coalition vessel Harmonious Dawn. We believed your species to be extinct. Our records indicate that Earth suffered a catastrophic asteroid impact over 50 years ago." The response came immediately, as if the humans had been expecting this conversation. "Captain Veltar, we are very much alive. The asteroid impact you mentioned was indeed devastating to our surface civilization. But humanity adapted by moving our population underground. We have been monitoring coalition communications for decades and are familiar with your languages and customs." 3 miles beneath the Colorado mountains, Colonel Amy Foster stood in the main communication center of New Denver, surrounded by dozens of technicians and translators. General Rodriguez watched from the observation deck above, while Dr. Ben Clark fine-tuned the translation systems to ensure perfect communication. "Amy, remember the protocols we discussed," General Rodriguez said through her earpiece. "Friendly but cautious. We want to learn about their intentions before revealing too much about our capabilities." Amy nodded and continued her conversation with the alien captain. "Captain Veltar, we understand that our survival may come as a surprise to the Coalition. We chose to remain hidden while we rebuilt our civilization and studied the galactic community from a distance." On the Harmonious Dawn, Veltar was trying to process the implications of what he was hearing. "Colonel Foster, when you say you have been monitoring our communications for how long?" "Approximately 60 years, Captain. We have been aware of the Coalition and its member species since before the asteroid impact. We have detailed knowledge of your languages, your technology, and your political structures." Dr. Krixna moved to Veltar's side and spoke quietly. "Captain, if they've been listening to our communications for 60 years, they know everything about us. Our ship movements, our technology, our military capabilities, everything." Veltar felt a chill run through his body. The Coalition had been operating under the assumption that they were the advanced civilization encountering a primitive one. Instead, they had been observed and studied by a species that had intentionally remained hidden while gathering intelligence. "Colonel Foster," Veltar said carefully, "we came here as scientists to study what we believed were the ruins of your civilization. We had no hostile intentions. We understand, Captain. Our monitoring stations detected your vessel when it entered our solar system. Your communication patterns and scanning procedures indicate a scientific mission rather than a military one." "Monitoring stations?" Veltar asked. "You have been tracking our movements since we arrived?" "Captain, we have been tracking all Coalition vessel movements in this system for decades. We maintain comprehensive records of every ship that has visited our space." The bridge crew of the Harmonious Dawn exchanged worried glances. This conversation was revealing that humanity possessed surveillance capabilities that the Coalition had never suspected. They had been watching and cataloging every Coalition operation in the Sol system without anyone knowing they existed. "Colonel Foster," Veltar said, "I believe this situation requires more direct communication. Would your people be willing to meet with representatives from our vessel?" Amy looked up at General Rodriguez, who nodded his approval. "Captain Veltar, we would be willing to arrange a meeting. However, we must insist that it take place on the surface of our planet, at coordinates we will provide." "Of course. How many representatives would you suggest?" "A small group would be appropriate. Perhaps you and your science officer, along with any other personnel you deem necessary." Veltar consulted with his crew. "We accept your invitation, Colonel Foster. When would be convenient?" "We can meet you tomorrow at 1400 hours local time. We will transmit landing coordinates for your shuttle." As the conversation ended, Veltar realized that everything the Coalition thought they knew about this region of space was wrong. Humanity was not extinct. They were not primitive, and they had been secretly observing the galaxy for over half a century. Dr. Krixna, prepare a preliminary report for Coalition Command. They need to know about this immediately. Captain, Krixna said hesitantly, what exactly are we going to tell them? That we discovered a supposedly extinct species that has actually been spying on us for 60 years? We tell them the truth, Veltar replied grimly, and we hope they're as surprised as we are. In the underground city of New Denver, preparations were already underway for humanity's first official contact with an alien species. Director Kate Walsh of the Global Infrastructure Project was coordinating with security teams to prepare a surface facility that could accommodate alien visitors without revealing the true extent of human underground civilization. We need to show them enough to prove we're advanced and unified, but not so much that they view us as a threat, Director Walsh explained to her team. This first meeting will determine how the galaxy sees humanity for generations to come. Dr. Lisa Carter joined the planning session, bringing decades of experience in xenobiology and first contact scenarios that humanity had developed during their years of secret observation. Based on our analysis of coalition cultures, the Centaurians value honesty and scientific achievement, Dr. Carter said. Captain Veltar appears to be a scholar rather than a military commander. We should emphasize our technological advancement and peaceful intentions. General Rodriguez entered the planning room and addressed the assembled team. People, this is the moment we've been preparing for since we first detected alien communications. Tomorrow, humanity officially joins the galactic community. We need to make sure we do it right. Lieutenant Tony Martinez, now promoted to major, raised his hand. Sir, what about the other coalition species? Our intelligence indicates that not all of them are as peaceful as the Centaurians. That's exactly why this first contact is so important, Rodriguez replied. We need the Centaurians to report back to the coalition that humanity is a peaceful, advanced species worthy of respect. If they see us as primitive or threatening, it could go very badly for us. Dr. Ben Clark spoke up from his position at the translation console. General, I've been monitoring increased coalition communications since we made contact. Word is spreading quickly through their network. We're going to have a lot more alien attention very soon. How much time do we have before other coalition vessels arrive? Rodriguez asked. Based on their communication patterns and known fleet positions, I estimate we have maybe 2 weeks before additional ships reach our system. Rodriguez nodded grimly. Then we need to make these 2 weeks count. Amy, tomorrow you represent not just Earth, but all of humanity. Make them understand that we're not the primitive, self-destructive species they thought we were. Amy Foster felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. In less than 24 hours, she would walk on the surface of Earth for the first time in her life, emerging from the underground cities to meet beings from another world. The conversation would determine whether humanity emerged as equals in the galactic community or as subjects to be controlled and managed. I won't let our species down, she said quietly. Above them, 3 miles of rock and carefully designed shielding continued to hide the greatest secret in the galaxy. That humanity had not only survived their apparent extinction, but had used their time in hiding to become something stronger, more united, and more technologically advanced than anyone could have imagined. The science vessel Harmonious Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, its sleek hull gleaming in the distant sunlight. Captain Veltar of the Centaurian Republic stood on the bridge, watching as his crew began their standard scanning procedures for what the Coalition had classified as an archaeological expedition. Beginning, long-range sensor sweeps of the inner system, reported Science Officer Krixna from her station. We should have detailed readings of the third planet within the hour. Veltar nodded, his tentacles moving in the gesture his species used to show approval. 3 years had passed since the Coalition had officially declared humanity extinct, but the scientific community had requested permission to study the remains of their civilization. Earth represented a rare opportunity to examine a species that had almost reached spacefaring status before destroying itself. Captain, called out Navigation Officer Torvan, we're detecting the same debris patterns as reported in previous surveys. Dead satellites in decaying orbits, Abandoned space stations showing no power signatures. Any signs of automated systems still functioning? Veltar asked. Negative, sir. Everything appears to have been offline for decades. As the harmonious dawn moved closer to Earth, Dr. Krixna began her detailed analysis of the planet below. Her instruments showed exactly what previous expeditions had reported, a world in the grip of what appeared to be nuclear winter. The upper atmosphere still carried traces of dust and debris from the massive asteroid impact, and the surface showed clear signs of the devastation that had followed. Fascinating, Krixna murmured as she studied the readings. The impact crater is even larger than our previous estimates suggested. The energy release must have been equivalent to several thousand nuclear weapons. Could any life have survived such an event? Asked Veltar, moving to look over her shoulder at the data. Highly unlikely on the surface, Krixna replied. However, I am detecting some interesting subsurface readings. There appear to be vast cavern systems beneath several continents. Natural formations most likely, but they're quite extensive. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, seismic monitoring technician Ben Clark looked up from his instruments with a frown. The underground sensor network that surrounded Earth had picked up something unusual. A vessel in orbit conducting deep penetration scans of the planet's crust. Sir, you need to see this, Ben called to his supervisor, Lieutenant Tony Martinez. Tony walked over to Ben's station and studied the readings. How deep are they scanning? Deeper than usual. Previous alien vessels have only done surface sweeps, but this one is using some kind of subsurface penetration technology. They're mapping underground formations down to about 2 miles. Still well above our installations, Tony noted. Our cities are all at least 3 miles down, and the shielding should block anything they're using. Yes, sir, but they're being very thorough. They've been at it for 6 hours now, and they're systematically mapping the entire planet. Tony frowned and reached for his communication device. I need to report this to General Rodriguez immediately. In the command center of New Denver, General Sam Rodriguez studied the reports from monitoring stations around the globe. This alien vessel was different from the others. Instead of a quick flyby and superficial scan, they were conducting a detailed scientific survey. How long before they finished their current scanning pattern? Rodriguez asked Colonel Amy Foster, who had been promoted to his chief of staff. At their current rate, approximately 18 more hours. Amy replied. But General, there's something else. Dr. Ben Clark in linguistics has been monitoring their communications. What has he learned? They're definitely scientists, not military. Their transmissions indicate they're here to study what they believe are the ruins of human civilization. They're calling it an archaeological expedition. Rodriguez walked to the large display showing the orbital position of the alien vessel. For over 50 years, humanity had maintained complete radio silence and hidden all signs of their continued existence. The surface of Earth showed exactly what the aliens expected to see, a dead world recovering from a massive catastrophe. Bring Dr. Clark to the briefing room, Rodriguez ordered. It's time we learned more about our visitors. 20 minutes later, Dr. Ben Clark entered the briefing room carrying a portable translation device and several data tablets. He had spent decades studying intercepted alien communications, building up humanity's understanding of various galactic languages and cultures. General, I've been tracking their communications for the past 8 hours, Ben began without preamble. The vessel is called the Harmonious Dawn, and it's part of something called the Coalition. The captain is named Veltar, and he's from a species called Centaurians. What are they looking for specifically? Rodriguez asked. Artifacts, technology, anything that might help them understand human culture and society. They seem genuinely interested in learning about us, not in conquest or exploitation. Colonel Foster leaned forward. Could this be an opportunity? What kind of opportunity? Rodriguez asked. To make contact, Foster replied. We've been hiding for 50 years, building our strength, learning about the galaxy through passive observation. Maybe it's time to let them know we're still here. Dr. Clark activated his translation device and played back several intercepted conversations. The alien voices were strange, musical in some cases, but the translation software rendered their words into clear English. They genuinely believe we're extinct, Clark said. They're talking about us in past tense, discussing our potential and lamenting that we destroyed ourselves before reaching the stars. And you think they might be friendly? Rodriguez asked. Based on their communications, yes. They seem to be scientists and explorers, not conquerors. The Coalition appears to be some kind of peaceful alliance of different species. Rodriguez walked to the window overlooking New Denver's Central Plaza. Below, children played in parks that had been carved from solid rock, their laughter echoing through the vast underground space. Humanity had built something incredible in the depths of the Earth, but they had always known that eventually they would need to rejoin the larger galaxy. What would be the risks of revealing ourselves? He asked. Ben consulted his tablets. Unknown but manageable. We could start with limited contact, reveal our existence gradually. The fact that we've survived and thrived might actually work in our favor. How so? Think about it from their perspective, Ben explained. They believe we were a promising but self-destructive species that couldn't control our violent impulses. If we reveal that we not only survived our supposed extinction, but used the crisis to unite and build a better civilization, that would completely change how they view us. Above them, Dr. Crixna was making a discovery that would change everything. Her deep penetration scans had detected something that shouldn't exist. Organized metallic structures buried deep beneath the Earth's surface, connected by what appeared to be transportation tunnels. "Captain," she called out, her voice filled with excitement and confusion. "You need to see this immediately." Veltar rushed to her station. "What is it?" "I'm detecting massive artificial structures beneath the surface. Not natural caverns, Captain. These are constructed facilities and they're huge." "Ancient human ruins?" Veltar suggested. "No, sir," Crixna replied, her tentacles trembling with the implications of what she was seeing. "These structures are generating heat signatures. They're active." The bridge of the Harmonious Dawn fell silent as the crew processed this information. Active structures meant active inhabitants, and active inhabitants meant that humanity was not extinct after all. "Are you certain of these readings?" Veltar asked quietly. "Yes, sir. I'm detecting not just structures but life signs. Millions of them spread across multiple continents, all deep underground." Veltar stared at the data streaming across his screens. In 50 years of coalition monitoring, no one had detected these underground cities. Humanity had not destroyed itself in nuclear fire or died in the asteroid impact. They had done something far more remarkable. They had survived by going underground. And they had been hiding there ever since. "Sir?" the communications officer called out. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface." "That's impossible," Veltar replied. "There are no active transmitters down there." "Sir, the transmission is in perfect Centaurian. Someone down there is speaking our language." Veltar felt his world shift as he realized what this meant. Humanity was not only alive. They had been listening to coalition communications for decades, learning their languages, studying their technology. The species the coalition had written off as extinct had been watching them all along. Commander Zethkar stood before the massive viewing screen in the coalition council chamber, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he watched the data streams flow across the display. Earth hung there in the projection, a blue and white marble that looked peaceful from this distance, but the readings told a different story entirely. "Council members," Zethkar began, his voice carrying the weight of authority that came with commanding the Valorian Empire's Deep Space Monitoring Division. "We have been watching the human homeworld for 50 standard years now, and I must report that our worst fears have been confirmed." The chamber held representatives from 12 different species, each sitting in their specialized atmospheric pods. The Centaurians with their flowing tentacles, the crystalline Etherians glowing softly in their energy fields, and the hulking Dreknari with their battle scars visible even in the dim lighting. All of them had been following the human situation with varying degrees of interest and concern. The electromagnetic signatures that once pulsed from their cities have gone completely silent. Zethkar continued, manipulating the holographic display to show heat maps of Earth's surface. No radio transmissions, no energy patterns from their power grids, no movement of their flying vehicles. Their space stations orbit empty and dark. Every indicator we can measure points to the same conclusion. Dr. Crixna, the Coalition's chief xenobiologist, leaned forward in her crystalline pod. "Commander, what about the impact crater in what they called the Pacific Ocean? Our long-range sensors detected a massive asteroid strike approximately 51 years ago. That event appears to have been the final blow," Zethkar replied grimly. "The humans had been fighting among themselves for decades before the asteroid hit. Wars, pollution, resource depletion, climate disruption. They were already weakening their planet when that rock finished the job." The Dreknari representative, War Chief Morgak, growled from his pod. The humans showed promise as warriors, but they lacked discipline. They turned their weapons on each other instead of uniting against real threats. This outcome was inevitable. Perhaps, said the Etherian delegate in her musical voice, but it is still tragic. They had such potential for growth and learning. Their art and music showed remarkable creativity. Zethkar nodded solemnly. Indeed, Councilmember Lyrith. The humans created beautiful things, but they also created terrible weapons. In the end, their nature was their downfall. The Coalition studied them for 200 years, debating whether to make contact, whether to intervene in their conflicts. We waited too long. The viewing screen shifted to show archived footage of human cities in their prime, massive structures of metal and glass reaching toward the sky, millions of vehicles moving along complex transportation networks, lights that turned night into day across entire continents. It had been an impressive civilization for such a young species. The final recordings we intercepted showed chaos in their final days. Zethkar continued. Emergency broadcasts, evacuation orders, desperate attempts to coordinate some kind of response to the incoming asteroid. Then silence. Nothing but silence for half a century. Council leader Velmoth of the Centaurian Republic spoke up, his voice heavy with regret. We should have acted sooner. The Prime Directive prevents us from interfering with developing civilizations, but perhaps in this case, hindsight serves no purpose now, interrupted the Keth hegemony representative. The humans made their choices. They chose violence over cooperation, destruction over preservation. Natural selection has run its course. 3,000 miles beneath the surface of what had once been called Colorado, Captain Jake Morrison checked the atmospheric readings for the 100th time that day. The underground city of New Denver stretched out below him, through the observation windows of the command center, a vast cavern filled with buildings that reached from floor to ceiling. Soft lighting mimicked the day and night cycles that people missed from the surface, and the air recycling systems hummed quietly in the background. Sir, we're getting some unusual readings from the Deep Space Monitoring Station, reported Lieutenant Amy Foster as she approached with a data pad in her hands. Looks like there might be another ship out there. Jake took the pad and studied the information. For 50 years, they had been tracking various alien vessels that occasionally passed through their solar system. The aliens seemed to believe that Earth was dead, which was exactly what the humans wanted them to think. Same pattern as the others? Jake asked, handing the pad back to his communications officer. Yes, sir. Long-range scans, energy sweeps, but they never come close enough to detect our installations. They look at the surface, see nothing moving, and mark us off as another dead world. Jake smiled grimly. The surface was indeed dead, or at least appeared to be. 53 years ago, Dr. Lisa Carter had led the team that detected the incoming asteroid. Unlike what the aliens believed, humans had not been caught by surprise. They had seen it coming with enough time to plan, to prepare, to survive. The Global Underground Project had begun immediately after the detection. Every nation on Earth had contributed resources, technology, and personnel to the largest construction effort in human history. They had dug deep into the planet's crust, creating vast underground cities connected by tunnels and transportation systems. When the asteroid hit, 8 billion humans had already moved below ground. Dr. Carter wants to see you in the main lab, Amy reported. She says it's about the expansion project. Jake nodded and made his way through the corridors of New Denver. The underground city was a marvel of engineering and planning. Hydroponic farms provided food, geothermal plants provided endless energy, and carefully designed living spaces housed millions of people in comfort. Children who had been born underground had never seen the sky, but they were healthy and happy in their subterranean world. Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her computer screens as Jake entered the laboratory. Her hair had gone gray during the long years underground, but her eyes still held the sharp intelligence that had saved the human race. Jake, we are ready for the final phase, she said, without preamble. The last surface installations are complete. We can now monitor everything that happens above ground while remaining completely invisible. Any word from the other cities? Jake asked, settling into a chair beside her desk. Moscow Deep reports all systems operational. Tokyo Underground is running at full capacity. New London is beginning their expansion into the Atlantic Ridge tunnels. Every major population center is now fully established underground with room to grow. Jake looked at the global map displayed on the wall. showing the network of underground cities and connecting tunnels that now housed all of humanity. It was an incredible achievement, one that the aliens above would never suspect. They still think we're extinct, he said quietly. Let them think that, Lisa replied. We're stronger down here than we ever were on the surface. United, protected, and growing. When we're ready to reveal ourselves to the galaxy, it will be on our terms, not theirs. Above them, 3 miles of rock and specially designed shielding kept their civilization hidden from any scanning technology the aliens possessed. Humanity had learned patience in the depths of the earth, and they would emerge when the time was right.